Coming up on Smart Tech today, Matthew Cassinelli and I are back, and we are talking about Apple's hand washing feature. Turns out they've been working on it for a while. Plus, Google's acquisition of North. They make those glasses you may or may not have heard of, and some new offerings for the Google Assistant and Control there, which, by the way, stay tuned because on Wednesday at 10 a.m., we will be covering Google's Smart Home event. All of that and so much more coming up on Smart Tech Today. Smart Tech Today is brought to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? Well, LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether they're working in the office or remote. Visit LastPass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is an app that reroutes your internet connection through their secure servers, so your ISP can't see the sites you visit. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/STT. Welcome back to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things and surrounding smart tech. I am Mikah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli.
Haha, you are. How are you doing today on this July? You know what? Better yet, how did you spend July 4th, Matthew Cassinelli?
Doing absolutely nothing, and I guess I made chicken apple sausages, so that's the closest hot dog style thing.
Nice.
It was good.
Hold
they
on.
were good. They had like mozzarella in them. So
you made them like you had sausage casing and you.
Oh no, not at all.
Oh,
I
was really impressed. I was really impressed. Hey, still a great choice, but for a second there, I pictured you, with the sausage casing and you've got chicken and apples and oh man.
We watched Harry Potter. So.
Oh, nice.
Not that even I'm super happy with that right now, and. Based on current events.
Well, no, it was written by Daniel Radcliffe, so we're fine.
Okay.
Which one did you watch?
We're just doing the whole series. It's quarantine still, so it's like, let's just watch 8 movies. I don't know, like why not?
Yeah, no, we just did that not too long ago. We started with the Fantastic Beast films that are out, and then went from there since that was Dumbledore back in the day. So it was earlier
my
times.
girlfriend doesn't want to watch those at all, so I didn't enjoy them that much. But
I love Eddie Redmayne with my whole heart and soul, and he's the main character, or he is the actor that plays the main character in that, Newt Scamander, and so I will watch most any movie with him in it anyway. But yeah, I really quite liked those. Anywho, I was just curious. We also spent the 4th of July day doing nothing, just hanging out,
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be out. There's no fireworks out to go to, and you shouldn't go to them. So
certainly,
if you could see them, you got lucky. But otherwise, it's just kind of like, oh, well, there's just a bunch of noise.
There were a few little booms, but nothing like what it is in Missouri. And so my dogs are quite pleased, I think, to be in California because they do not like the fireworks. No, they don't like fire either. I don't know of anyone who does. So that also applies. Anyway, let's go ahead. And
I'm curious. To roughly segue into our first topic, did you have sound recognition on? Because as a follow-up from last week, I've had the sound recognition and the hand washing thing on all week, and I've been testing them on the betas. I guess maybe you don't. Maybe you didn't jump right into the beta, but it was going off during Harry Potter, going off during the fireworks and everything. So it is like it's all connected.
What did you have on for sound recognition? What features? You just wanted to see what all it would do. How does it work? What does it look like? What's the prompt? Is it obnoxious?
I think you have to manually activate it in settings first, but then there's also a control center option. And I have fire alarm, siren, smoke alarm. I mean, I just have them all, but
yeah,
fire alarm, siren, smoke alarm, cat, dog, appliances, car horn, doorbell, door knock, water running, baby crying, and shouting. So it's kind of like...
And does it buzz you on your watch? Like, what does it say? How does it look, actually?
I don't know if I got them on my watch. I can't actually recall right now, but I did. I mostly noticed them on my phone afterwards, which maybe isn't the best experience. Like, I'm curious if they could announce them out loud, like the AirPods thing. Maybe that would make sense. But it's just kind of like there's a sound detected, like, oh, it sounded like an appliance beeped. So we did overcook some beans earlier today, so maybe that would have been helpful if the phone was nearby or something like that. That's even a cool, I hadn't thought about until just now, of leaving your phone near the thing and then getting the notification on your watch or something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's like technically false positives because I don't need to know about any of these things, but I'm just trying to test it. So it's pretty reliable. Like the water running thing, it's just like when I'm washing my hands or somebody's using the sink in the room. I guess there's not really a whole lot of noise in the neighborhood. It was very peaceful this weekend. I don't know if you had that near you, but there was nobody out at all. It was like actually quiet. And I was like, this is weird.
It was
so maybe not the best week for that, but I got the movie stuff in.
Yeah. And then the other thing, so we kind of saw a lot of, I think, sort of jokes, I guess, about how the hand washing feature that was coming to Apple Watch, because of the way that, beta software gets announced and actual software gets released, folks are not going to see this hand washing tech until further on down the line, September or similar. And so there was kind of the complaint that, a hand washing feature on the Apple Watch, which, by the way, it's a feature in the Apple Watch where your Apple Watch is listening for a specific sound of both water running and the squish of soap. And those two together make the Apple, and also uses the gyroscope, I believe, to an accelerometer and stuff to determine hand movements and that kind of thing. And combines all of those to figure out when you're washing your hands, and then gives you a timer to let you know, hey, you are washing your hands and you've got this much time left to get in a full 20 seconds worth of washing. And if you stop, it'll buzz you and say, hey, keep washing. So with that feature, the complaint was, this is great, but nobody's going to get it when they need it, which is now versus later. And so there's kind of a ho-hum thing, as if Apple had created this feature to partner with the fact that COVID-19 is here. TechCrunch has reported that Apple wanted to add this feature to Apple Watch and had started to work on it long before COVID-19 ever became a factor. So it's not as if this was a direct and therefore late response to the this novel coronavirus, but instead was a feature that they just finally are ready to have roll out.
Yeah, at least though, the thing that's different this year is that they are making a public beta of the Apple Watch or Watch OS available whenever they come out with the public beta. And they said sometime in July. So I guess actually people can, if you are willing to go onto the betas, install it. I have it on my watch, and aside from battery life, which is usually an issue on like the first beta consistently, just because there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. If they tweak it up, like it seems like it should be fine. So if you are wanting this, it is going to be available before September, which is good. And just in general, like my experience has been, I should wash my hands a little bit longer, which is like fair. It's not like 15 more seconds or something like that. It's a couple seconds sometimes, but it's helped me just think about it more. And then also like we were doing a bunch of housework and there's a bunch of dust flying around and things like that. And so I was making sure to wash my hands extra often, and even just doing the full 20 seconds when your hands are like specifically dirty, I could tell that was making more of a difference and it felt extra clean. So I think it's not that I didn't wash my hands before. That's always a kind of a gross thing that comes around with this, but it is like I'm doing it a little bit better now and probably will keep this on. I don't see any reason not to, because even with the stand rings, it's like I've been wearing the Apple Watch for years and years now. I know that I should stand once an hour, but the point isn't to remember. It's to have this thing remind you and keep you going no matter what. So you should turn it on if you do get it. And it's also, I think you have to activate it from the watch, at least on this beta. So maybe it will be in the watch app later, but I was confused.
Yeah, so far it seems to only be available via the watch. Whenever I did go and install the beta, I turned it on as soon as I could figure out where to find it, and I've really enjoyed it as a feature. The one thing, it's interesting because there are times where I will maybe just be rinsing my hand while I'm cooking or something, and I'll rinse some flour off of my hand or something. And sometimes the watch will think that I am washing my hands. There have been other times where I was doing something else and just the right sounds and movements came about to make it think that I was washing my hands. And so I always go in and hit that cancel button in the top left corner, because I do feel guilty if I don't get those full 20 seconds in. And there have been times where it will not recognize that I'm washing my hands until a little bit later than my hands are actually being washed, and I'll just keep going. So it's like 45 seconds of me washing my hands just because I want to get that full check mark. You know what I mean? So that's been kind of an interesting experience there, where I'm feeling like I got to do this. I don't want my watch to judge me, I guess is how I was feeling about it. And being very careful to make sure that I got them fully clean.
So, you know what I just realized? I didn't think about this, but it's logging it to the health app. And so you can see your averages. That's not good.
That's what made me...
That is like... yeah, like get your stats up, basically.
That's what made me make sure that anytime it's accidentally recognized hand washing, I am sure to go, no, this is not real hand washing, because I don't want it to report any bad. Yeah. And I know I can go in and delete them, but that's, you know what I mean? It's kind of a fun, I guess, experience that I've enjoyed playing around with, and making sure that I get those marked in my health app, basically. Speaking of like being shamed and stressed by these data points, tell me about how the Apple Watch's sleep tracking is a little different from what one is used to expecting from different apps and services that do sleep tracking.
Sure. This is a story from CNBC where Christina Farr actually ended up talking to Kevin Lynch, Apple's vice president in charge of Apple Watch software. And so I thought this was an interesting take, because at first glance, when you use the sleep type data, it seems pretty simple. Like there's clearly other apps that do much more than this. And they're kind of saying like, that's the point. They decided to focus on setting and achieving simple goals rather than maybe getting fixated on the exact quality of your sleep every single night and then being stressed out. Like they said specifically, people will come in with their data and be like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, this is a little too much. Like get more sleep is the kind of those general rules. Like sleep in a cool room, I guess, is another thing I've seen lately. But it's like, just they want to reinforce the habits, and specifically Apple was even saying of getting to bed, which makes sense. It's like, I mean, maybe lately things have changed with people working from home, but your wake schedule is generally dictated for you, and just getting to bed on time is the big issue. So that's why they have the whole wind down experience where you can sort of close down your phone a little bit more when you open it and you're not immediately just jumping into something like Twitter. But I thought it was a smart angle, just because it's go for something simpler that you can measure but isn't going to be like overwhelming, and then like the minutia of your sleep data is what you're focused on, and not just living a life and getting some good sleep.
Yeah. It's been interesting, you know, because the Apple Watch has not existed in this space for so long. I have discovered other tools that help me track my sleep that I use regularly, including the Beauty Rest sleep tracker. So anyway, these little pucks go under each side of the bed and they can track your sleep, and it's very good at what it does. I even sometimes, if I'm still awake, my partner is asleep, I'll pop open the app and this has only happened occasionally. I'm not constantly doing this, mind you, but pop open the app and see it tracking sleep and, seeing which stage of sleep the person is in and that kind of thing. And what's cool is that as you get up in the morning, when you get out of bed and it can tell, okay, that wasn't just the person going to use the restroom or something like that. They've been away from bed long enough. That's when it'll send you your sleep score and let you know sort of how you slept. And then over time, it starts to take all of this data and tabulate it and give you information based on that. And so it'll say like, hey, we've noticed that when you have a higher heart rate, you are not sleeping as well. Your sleep tends to be, lower quality overall. And it'll give you some tips for how you can lower your heart rate while you sleep, including not eating so close to bedtime and those kinds of things. So because of that and some other tools that I've used or use, the Apple Watch is coming into, for me, a space that's kind of saturated already and has, I've got my way of doing things. And so I'm used to taking my Apple Watch and putting it on the charger at night and going to bed because I have something else that tracks my sleep and puts that information into the health app. That said, I've been trying to use this because I do want to see how it works and I want to give it a reasonable go. But I do wonder, given how long it's taken the Apple Watch versus some other sleep tracker or other activity trackers out there to add this technology, if that's going to be the issue for other people as well. Whether it can do a good enough job in comparison to like the Pillow app, for example, to provide for what a person wants when they're doing sleep tracking. I found that the augmentation has been good, which means that I can kind of use both, where I love the bedtime features that the that the phone has, where it will dim the screen and it makes it a little bit more difficult to sort of go into your device and look at stuff. And so I have that stuff turned on to where it's got shortcuts to launch Audible because, like I mentioned, I'll listen to audiobooks at night. So for that, it's been really nice to make that all happen automatically and to remind me, hey, you said you were going to go to bed. And then just, I think this morning, I got a prompt. I meant to screenshot it, but never mind. I was thinking about the past tense of screenshot and I didn't like it. So, so screenshot the notification and I forgot to, but it said, hey, in the past 5 days, you've achieved your sleep goal, your go to bed time. I think it was 4 times out of the past 5 days. So you went to bed at the time you said you wanted to in the past 4 days out of 5. So that was kind of nice. It made me feel good. Like, okay, I'm doing the thing that I need to do. So that was helpful. But as for the sleep tracking itself, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. I'm curious, have you done any apps or other things for sleep tracking up to this point? And how are you feeling about the sleep tracking features here?
I use Auto Sleep, which uses when you're wearing your watch to determine whether or not you're asleep. And I was just looking at the data. That's what I just can't figure out is how to get the phone to know that I'm no longer in bed when I wake up, because it seems like each time I use the phone, it stays in that. Maybe I'm just not hitting like dismiss or something, right? But it keeps thinking that I'm sleeping until the end of like the bedtime period, but I'm not actually. Like, for example, I woke up at 3 a.m. yesterday and it thinks that I woke up at 7, but Auto Sleep knows when I was like, because wearing my watch, I don't personally like to wear my watch to bed. And so I guess maybe that's part of it, is I'm not actually wearing the watch and I'm just using the bedtime thing. I haven't tested that aspect of it yet, but it's just like trying to determine if I'm asleep or not, or like it's saying in bed. Like Apple doesn't actually track the asleep aspect of it, and so I do have the mix of data, which is an interesting thing. But yeah, I need to play with it more. I think I just don't understand it, and maybe by nature, every single time I use it, I'm groggy and tired. It's like hard to understand, so not wrapping my brain around it. But that's why I was curious. Like when you wake up, if you wake up before it, are you dismissing it or what? But
you mean if I wake up before my time and on my phone, do I dismiss it? Yes. Yeah, I'll go ahead and just tap dismiss to be able to get into my phone. But I'll still let the alarm go off at the appropriate time, just so that it can sort of play out because otherwise I have to shut off the alarm and then I got to remember to turn it back on and that kind of thing.
Yeah, see, that's what I don't understand about. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, usually I don't have that issue of waking up too early. It's waking up and going, man, I'd just love to go back to sleep.
See, that's me being, I don't want to say an old man, but I definitely noticed that from the time I started working from home around like 28 to now being 30 is I wake up before my alarm, or I don't really actually set an alarm most of the time, but I wake up earlier than I want to. So I guess that's just kind of part of it.
Oh, great.
I would love to sleep in until 11. I don't think I've done that in years and years.
Oh my, 11? Yeah, that would be nice. That I'm trying to think the latest I can sleep in. It's certainly not until 11, but versus when my alarm would go off and when I wake up, I tend to be woken by the alarm, and happy for that, to not wake up and be stuck. I guess my thing is, like, I know some people, they wake up and they cannot go back to sleep. I usually don't have an issue of going back to sleep. Not a problem. Thing. Now, one of the things that I was kind of thinking about, a shortcut, an automation that I would love to exist. And I don't care if it comes from the Apple Watch. Frankly, I'd love it to come from the Beauty Rest sleep tracker because it is so accurate at tracking sleep. So one of the problems that I have is, and this was something that actually a listener had mentioned too, is that they also listen to an audiobook to fall asleep. But they'll listen to an audiobook, they'll fall asleep, and maybe they'll set a sleep timer in the audiobook app, or maybe they won't. Because sometimes if I set a sleep timer, I end up being awake past the sleep timer. And if I do that, then I have to open up my phone again and blast my eyes. Even at the reduced light value, it's me having to get up and adjust and do all these things I don't want to. So I usually just don't set a sleep timer. And instead, I just fall asleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I've got to, rewind and find where it was that I fell asleep so that I can continue listening to the book, and, make sure that I'm still caught up. I would love a feature. All I need is for the app or the watch or whatever it is to sort of have a hook that says, I think this person is asleep, so that I can say, if I think this person is asleep, then pause whatever is playing on the person's phone. It's so simple, but that automation would be amazing. Now, I think not only for that, and God forbid that people do this, but they do this, and I wish that you wouldn't, but people do. They fall asleep with the television on. Some people fall asleep with the television on. It's so bad for your sleep. It's not good, but some people fall asleep with the television on and they swear they can't fall asleep unless the television is on. So given that there is a world in which people fall asleep with the television on, let's help them out too. If I think this person is asleep, then turn off the television. If this person is asleep, then turn off the lights throughout the house. When this person wakes up, when I think this person is awake and it's, past X time of day, then turn on these lights. That's sleep data. So much of what we do in our homes and like the way that we control our lights and things is based around our sleep cycles. So it would be incredible if there was a feature, if there was any sort of tie into that. I want access to that data right there. If I'm tracking my sleep, let me have access to that, because then I could even go as far as because I think that one of the concerns that I have there is when you are going through the stages of sleep, the early stage of stage 1 going into stage 2, and then stage 2 going into stage 3, those can be disrupted by changes in your environment. When you get to stage 3, and then you start going back up to stage 2, stage 1, and REM. REM specifically is very protective of your sleep. Your brain will incorporate things happening in your environment in order to keep you asleep. That's why, there may be that you have a dream where there's an alarm going off, and it turns out that it's your alarm in real life. Your brain wants to protect you from waking up whenever it's in REM sleep, because REM sleep, we don't know why precisely REM sleep is so important, but it's clear that it must be because of the way that the brain tries to keep us in that sleep if we're in that cycle. Anyway, on our way down, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, changes in the environment can disrupt your sleep. So what I'd love to take that even further, because these different apps and services do break things up into different stages. I'm in stage 1 sleep. Go ahead and mark either, I don't care, put it in the notes app, put it wherever you want to, but mark the duration, the current time of my audiobook. And then when I get to stage 2, going into stage 3, go ahead and pause. So that way I can go the next morning and say, okay, I should probably rewind to this point and go ahead and listen, and then I can figure out where I was. If I'm tracking that data, let me have more access to it so that I can use that for all sorts of things. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, as you were first starting into that, I was like, ooh, what if it could be a trigger for an automation? And then you got to it, and I was like, oh yeah, good point.
Exactly.
I could see that.
So cool. I
think one of the things is always like, I don't want any other app to know that. So I could see it, just because what I was talking about last week with the new Apple Watch app actions, which is a little bit of a weird way to think about it. But in Shortcuts, now you can change your watch face using actions from the Apple Watch app. That would make sense to have that app allow you to have the sleep data, like, because it probably needs to come from somebody who's wearing the Apple Watch for it to be accurate enough for that type of stuff. But that could be cool. That could be a future feedback request. File your feedback, everybody. Because it is like, if you want to see that, and they might not have thought of it, like, it could be.
Can you set up like a Coffee or a Cash App page where we can send you like $4.99 and you file the feedback requests for us?
Absolutely. You can pay me $5 to file one piece of feedback.
All right. I'm going to hit you up on that, because there are things I want, but I don't want to write those stinking feedback reports.
I have a shortcut for it. I can share that in the show notes. It guides you through the process of submitting a feedback.
You should share it in the show notes for folks that do want to take the time. It's the typing it out. I wish I could just record an audio voice memo and send it to them. This is what I want. This is what I wish.
I wonder if you could. Okay. Hold on. Let me write that down. Voice memo.
Send a feedback request for voice memos.
Because you could use the record audio action in Shortcuts and attach it as a file, and then just have a. Okay, maybe they don't want a bunch of rants from people.
They probably don't. But they're not as easily searchable either. I mean, you can transcribe them, but it might not be as good. There are a bunch of reasons why they wouldn't want that.
Yeah. In theory, the shortcut itself, if you run it from Siri, has multiple steps, and she'll tell you what to say at each step, and then it'll fill it in all formatted for you. So... so you do make it easier. There, okay, so. Let me get that shortcut then, and I'll start there. And if not, then let me know where to hit you up with some. But I get to send you voice memos as opposed if I'm paying you $4.99 to submit feedback. I mean, I get to just send you voice memos. Okay, good. Let's move on to our next topic here. I don't know if you've ever heard of Focals by North. Anthony Nielsen, one of our producers and editors here at Twit, as well as, man about the town, designer, and also he's a superhuman. But anyway, he, for the longest time, and I don't know if he still does because we never see each other in person anymore, wears Focals by North, these smart glasses that may well have been the first pair of smart glasses that actually could be a reasonable thing that people would want to wear. I've heard lots of good things, not just from Anthony, but from fellow tech journalists in the space who were able to get a pair of Focals by North and try them out, who absolutely loved them. We just have learned that Focals by North has been acquired by Google. Google, infamous for Google Glass, has acquired Focals by North, or North actually, just the company itself, which of course Focals is one of the things. It's very, very interesting. I have another article that's a review of this, and I had put it in the show notes for this when I first read it, but I think for some reason we decided not to talk about it that week and never came back to it. But there's an in-depth review from Slash Gear also that I thought was interesting, just because it was a nice little walkthrough, and it's a good sense of what the technology is currently and kind of maybe what Google could do with it if they spruced it up a bit. Like, I mean, the biggest thing the guy says is that the glasses are too heavy and fall off your nose. So like, as the literal product itself for a $600 pair of smart glasses, maybe a little much. But it's a pretty fascinating, like, notifications in your glasses for, I don't know if you want them for Instagram as you're walking around the world, but it is very, it seemed kind of low key for how good it looks. Like,
yes,
Google Glass has been around and people kind of, I think, wrote it off. So maybe there's not as much interest in this space, but I think another
I was
fascinating
surprised
thing.
there's not.
Go ahead.
I was just going to. Well, I think we're agreeing on the same thing here. I was surprised there was not more conversation about these, given from what I saw myself. I got to put them on, and they are fit to a single individual person's face. So it's very hard to actually wear someone else's focals by North because the prism isn't precisely aligned and all that kind of stuff. But given what I was able to see, they're really good quality. Like, the experience is actually quite good. And so it kind of shocked me that we didn't hear more, I think, about these.
Mm-hmm. I think what is fascinating me, though, is they have the voice control thing, but they have a little ring that's like a controller too. And so
a little joystick.
I'm like fascinated. They call it the loop. And like, so it goes around your pointer finger, and then you use your thumb, like you're playing a thumb war with somebody, and you kind of steer around the interface. And that was fascinating to me. Like, I have no doubt that Google wants to do more with glasses also, but in the announcement, they talk about, we think about ambient computing and just having a little ring to control AR experiences, regardless of where they're coming from, glasses or not. Sounds fascinating. Like, not just glasses, but the little doohickey as well. So that could be cool. I want one of those. Just a little trigger thing, or Siri trigger.
I love there it is. I love this idea, it just in general, because I think about the mapping experience and being able to just sort of see in the corner of your eye, you're going to keep going forward, and then you're going to turn left at this lane, and you get less confused about everything. I know that this isn't a feature that's available in these, and it's one certainly that people would have an issue with, but maybe there's a world in which you are, say you're at an event like CES, and each of the registrants, of course, have, by being a part of CES and paying the ticket or whatever, they're all agreeing to a number of things, including probably appearing on camera at some point. And so with that comes certain, agreements that your likeness will be available to people. And so if I could walk around with my focals by North and learn who this person is in front of me using the little camera in there, then immediately I can greet the person and have a conversation with them. All those kinds of things seem very cool in this augmented reality world that exists. So I think this is a really cool product, and I hope that its acquisition by Google speaks to a better future for the product. Sadly, if it's anything like Nest, then there are going to be some growing pains and potential, loss of goodness to it. So I don't know. I guess what I'll say is this: I don't have incredibly high hopes that this kind of acquisition will lead to a better product. But despite not having incredibly high hopes, I remain optimistic about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's better than North being a standalone company, I would say, because at a certain level, they probably couldn't execute at the level that they'll need to make smart glasses a thing. And so if anyone's going to be doing it, it's going to be Apple or Google, or I don't know if I want Amazon doing it and identifying people in the street for the police.
People on the street.
The CES example was good because I was getting like completely lost at CES also. And there was a couple times where it's like, is that who I think it is? Like, and then it's like, yes, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Because it'll be reading your mind. No. Let's talk about the Actions project. Is this what we've been waiting for? Is this shortcuts but for Google, Matthew?
Sort of. This was kind of part of the announcements that we were covering last week, where there's just so much that they just dropped at once. But they have a nice video on the Google developers YouTube page where you can watch and learn all about the Access project and kind of the basics of getting started. So I think it seemed, even having a simple video like this to get started with it seems a lot better than before. So this is something I think I'm going to play around with this summer. I don't know how quickly it will go because I have lots and lots of shortcut stuff to do. I tweeted a video of just me scrolling through my library now that it's all perfectly organized. So that was fun. But this is very fascinating because I do think, again, I mean, in my Twitter sphere, I feel like a lot of this stuff goes unnoticed, that Google is making this stuff more and more powerful in the background. It's maybe not as consumer focused or easy to share about as something like shortcuts, but they're making it really powerful. And I think a big thing too is they're also adding in more to, so this is the next story too, is they have what they're calling SHED, which is smart home entertainment devices, as a category into the Google Assistant, and basically creating it so that you can target specific devices. I guess this wasn't possible before, but now they're just continuing to build on it and making it easier so that, like, if you are specifically going for a smart home display versus just the speaker and things like that, you can target it, or something for a sound bar and things like that.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing. So yeah, SHED actually has been around. It was in April that they released this this set of smart home devices. So you, up to that point, couldn't control certain devices, but they added TV, set-top box, remotes, and then there were different traits that you could make adjustments to based on that. So you could, choose an app from a set-top box, or you could change the input on the television or the current state of the media on the television. So whether it's playing or it's paused. New devices that they're adding now include an audio-video receiver, a streaming box, a streaming stick, a soundbar, a streaming soundbar, and a speaker, so far more controls than were currently available, as well as a new trait called channel. So you can change the channel on the television. So that way you could say, hey, dear friend named Google, please pause the living room TV. And then you could say, hey, dear friend named Google, please change the channel to 77, and then it would do so. So this is a little bit more control than has been available up to this point, and it's a category that I think has, for the longest time, kind of been left out of the smart home game. Lots of smart lights and smart locks and smart motion sensors and things like that, but now to add the your television and surrounding devices to that experience. And so that kind of all the big players in your space can all be controlled with a voice, I think is all around a very cool thing that's going to continue to make voice first technology all the more sort of prevalent.
Agreed. Yeah, this is good to see. And just going forward, I hope to see more activity in especially, I don't know, like targeting specific devices and doing more unique things for those spaces is always very cool. So I'm going to see, I don't know if I can do something special through it with I'm going to try to do something shortcuts related for the Google Action. So that should be fun. Bridging the two brands.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to, yeah. By the way, this is a great time to mention that Google is hosting a summit for the smart home. It's a virtual summit for the smart home, and the keynote for this event will be 10 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday. This Wednesday, that is July 8th, as the crow flies. No, I kid. So July 8th at 10 a.m. That's a Wednesday. Matthew Cassinelli, the guy right there, and I will be covering this event live. So be sure to check out twit.tv/live on Wednesday at 10 a.m. if you want to check out our coverage and commentary of this event, where we learn a little bit more about what Google has to offer us in the smart home. Looking forward to that.
That will be fun. I'm excited. I don't think I've done a live event coverage ever before, so get the hot takes in real time. I guess we won't talk over everything, but
yeah, real time hot takes and a little bit of listening to what's going on in between. Should be fun. So get your coffee, get your bagels. I don't care what it is that you get, folks. Get whatever you need to hang out with us while we cover this keynote. We're looking forward to it. Let's take a quick break before we talk about the project of the week. This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by, you guessed it, did you? I don't know, but it's ExpressVPN. And we are so thankful to have ExpressVPN bringing you this episode. You know, think about the last time that you did a search for something that you didn't really want anyone else to know that you searched for. It was completely innocent. You were just, watching a movie or something like that, and it had something in it, and you thought, that can't be real. I want to know if you can completely dispose of a rhinoceros with one candle and a can of tuna. And so you thought, I'm going to do a search for that. And then you thought, oh no, that's going to probably put me on some list if I do a search for that. Yeah, that you might think that you could just turn on incognito mode or privacy browser or whatever it happens to be, depending on what browser you're using. Well, here's the thing. Incognito mode, privacy browser, those don't really hide your activity. Doesn't matter what mode you use or how many times you clear your browsing history, your ISP, your internet service provider, can still see every single website you've ever visited. That means they can see you looking up can of tuna, candle, and a rhino and go, what in the world are they up to? That's why, even when I'm at home, I use ExpressVPN. So regardless of what ISP you're using, you can use ExpressVPN to keep your data private. ExpressVPN is an app that reroutes your internet connection through its secure servers, so your ISP can't see the sites you visit. It also keeps all of your information secure by encrypting 100% of your data with the most powerful encryption available. And here's the thing. Most of the time, I don't even realize that I've got ExpressVPN turned on. In fact, on my iPad, that's one example, iOS at some point made it so that even if you restart the device or you lock and come back to it later, the VPN will still remain connected whenever you go back on. And so oftentimes I forget the doggone thing's turned on, but it doesn't matter because I'm getting the incredible speeds that I'm used to. And I'm not worried about, lag or anything like that. I just tap that one button and I am protected. Now, ExpressVPN, a cool thing too, is that it's available on all of your devices, whether they're phones, computers, even your smart TV. You can use it everywhere. So there's really no excuse for you not to be using it, even at home. Protect your online activity today with the VPN rated #1 by CNET and Wired. You just head to expressvpn.com/STT and you can get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/STT. expressvpn.com/STT to learn more. Our thanks to ExpressVPN for protecting my privacy online and for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. So last week, we talked about security systems a little bit, and also on Twitter, Matthew and I had a little conversation. Someone was asking about a security system that they wanted to try out or that, they weren't sure about. And I kind of mentioned that I didn't have, that was the one smart home category where I hadn't checked out a lot of the products that were available. And we talked about a new security system and a deal from eufy's. Well, actually, I guess it's just eufy. Eufy's security offerings. It's smart home offerings, rather. And I thought I would pick up one of those kits and talk a little bit about it today. So I'm going to grab the box that's down below me and talk about the system. So the first thing is this keypad. For those listening, I'm going to, make sure that you can understand what's going on, even if you're not able to see it. But we do appreciate it when you tune in. Close this blind so that it gets a little bit easier to see. So it starts with a keypad that is quite well designed. It comes in white, and it has a little panel that you can fasten to a wall, and then you slide the keypad down onto the system, and then you type in, your codes. It has keys to lock and unlock the space. It's also got a little motion sensor right on there, so that you'd have this next to your living room front door. This too can serve as a motion sensor just as much as it is the sort of centralized area where you are doing all of your security work. Buttons on top for syncing and things like that, and it is USB micro charged. So you can, bring over a battery pack and charge it, or what I like to do is just slide it off, and then I can go and charge it when it needs to be charged. It lasts a long time because this thing doesn't have to do a whole lot. So I charged it up and it's ready to go on the wall. Then comes in a nice box. Got your startup guides and all that kind of stuff, as well as a sticker for "This home is protected by eufy security, so don't be sniffing around here." So you can let folks know that. Give the person an early warning not to come into your house. The actual device that connects to your router, and that also has a loud siren built into it. So it's important that you have this closer to the space that you are most concerned about being broken into. So that was that's been the one thing that I have to figure out, is how I'm going to sort of wire this so that it can be connected to my router, but also in a place where it's not on my house is set up with the garage being the bottom floor and the entryway being the bottom floor. The first floor is living room and kitchen and dining room, and the top floor are where the bedrooms and bathrooms are. And so if I keep this in my office, then the alarm's going to be very far away from the front door if that were to be where someone would break in. So I'm still figuring that out, given that, it needs to be wired. So something I'm working on. I just have to basically run an Ethernet cord. And then all the little tidbits that you need, including some, I don't know why, but I always get very excited about funky sized batteries. And these are some funky sized batteries. They are 3-volt batteries, and they look like an AA battery that's been cut in half, although a little bit wider than a normal.
Say a chunky one.
Yeah, a chunky AA cut in half.
It's just a single A battery, right?
Probably, yeah. And then on the bottom, sorry, they're magnets, and so they're actually sticking to things right now, are the little sensors that are contact sensors. So they, one goes on a window or a door, and then, if the window were to slide up, then it would know that the window has been opened with some 3M tape on the back to lock everything in. These are where the batteries go. And then last but not least is the motion sensor. And so this, of course, will be placed in a space where it can check to see if it, notices any motion. And that's the good thing, too, about the actual keypad having a motion sensor, is that I don't need to put a motion sensor in the space where the keypad is, aka the front door entryway space. I could put it somewhere else where I would be concerned about someone, maybe breaking in or coming through the house whenever I'm not around. So, it's an all-included kit, which is quite nice that you get all of these pieces that come together to provide for a secure home. So as I mentioned, the one concern that I have is you want to make sure that you can connect the actual alarm system and the sort of main device for controlling and talking to all of the different pieces of the eufy security system. But you can get then a eufy camera that can then pair with this hub. And so that way you've got the one hub that kind of works as the centralized communication platform for all the different devices. So yeah, that's kind of nice. And then of course, hardware for the stuff. So these are for the entry sensors. So you can either use the tape or you can fasten them to the wall with that. And even the motion sensor has a nice little pivotable ball joint that you can stick it onto. And so you can adjust it exactly as you need it. Yeah. So what I like about it is that, like I said, it's an all-in-one kit. You don't have to, take a bunch of different pieces and buy a bunch of different stuff and make it all work together. You buy this one thing, it's got most of what you need, if not all of what you need. And then from there, you can augment it as you need. You can add on to it as you need. So I was really impressed with what is available. And eufy has frankly done a very good job of offering some smart home stuff at a price that is not so superbly ridiculous that you can't, afford to add a bit of security to your home if you need it.
How does the whole app and automation experience work?
So the app is, wow, that was loud. One sec. All right, how to get that out of the way. So the app is mostly a means to provide control of, the arming and disarming if you want to do it, if you forget and you're away from home and you want to do it. Also using location awareness if you want to sort of say, hey, when I'm out of the home, then arm my system. When I'm back, you can disarm the system. I am looking into, I'm not 100% certain how it is, how to sort of involve HomeKit with this, because we know that the eufy cameras are HomeKit enabled cameras, and you're supposed to be able to pair the cameras with this security system. But what's unclear is if you have to choose one or the other. And so I'm still in the process of trying to figure that out, because that obviously is a deciding factor, I think, in the overall effectiveness of it for me. So that's something that I'm keeping in mind. So yeah, as far as automations go, it's going to be what is offered through the app versus the HomeKit side of things. But for those of us who have Hoobs or some other home bridge system, that may be able to be circumvented. And then each of these devices can also work as HomeKit enabled devices. So yeah, that's, like I said, it was still a little bit up in the air in terms of what can or can't be paired and how. But as soon as I have that information, I'll make it available, of course.
Yeah. Hopefully they add more to it as well. And just for anyone curious, this is the security 5-piece alarm kit, right? Because they have a bunch of other kits that include, like, you could spend $600 and get 4 of those cameras as well. But I think the alarm bits are new, so maybe they'll do other bundles as well. But seems pretty affordable for what you get. And the there's a button on the front that says CUS, which is for a custom setting. But I just thought that was funny.
Cuss.
Like, what is that? What is cuss? I don't know. But
cuss. Yeah. Available
you never
on
have
Amazon.
to use this system.
Yeah, exactly. Hope it never, goes off, and I'm awakened in the middle of the night. I do like the silly burglars that they have in the promo images on Amazon's website.
Exactly. It's on their website too. The guy, exactly, shocked by the window alarm. Oh my God.
A security system on your window? This isn't 1997. And I love too on the box, it's like free, no monthly fee, because so many people who do have security systems are used to paying like ADT $1,500 a month for some system that barely works. And they end up not using, and all it does is just beep at them every time they open and close their doors. That's been my experience. I don't know if that's been your experience, but anytime I've been to a friend's house where the parents have one of these alarm systems they pay for every month and paid a bunch of money for installation, they have given up on using it. And so all that happens is every time a door opens in the house, it goes beep, 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 beep. And then the door closes, beep, 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 beep. And then that's it. That's the extent of the alarm system. They don't arm it at night. They don't do anything else. It just does a little beep every time a door or window opens in the house. And I just think, why are you paying each month for this stupid system that's like, that doesn't wake you up in the middle of the night? You get used to it. I don't know.
Put a little bell on the top of the door and it serves the same purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also wonder too, with security systems, I took a media class in college, and one of the things that we learned in that class was a thing called, it was a psychological concept, a mean world syndrome. And it is the observed behavior that after a period of time of being sort of seeped in by watching news media and, in our case, scrolling through Twitter and Facebook and seeing these things that don't necessarily happen in our own environments and in our own neighborhoods, but happen throughout the world because we're so connected to everyone and everything else, we start to believe that the world is a lot less safe, or a lot that we in our own homes are maybe a lot less secure than we are. And certainly many of us have come to understand that in many cases that does end up being the case, based on the color of your skin and those kinds of things, unfortunately. But two, mean world syndrome is it still shows that, statistically, you may never in your life face a home break-in, but because you have watched, time after time after time after time, or read time after time after time about break-ins or people robbing things or whatever, that you start to believe that it can happen to you and that it's like happening right outside your door. And so I do believe that they're, a big thing with these security systems, the way that they can sell them is through fear. And so I just think that's something everyone should be. Thank you. I said thank you to Kevin because he pulled up mean world syndrome on Wikipedia. So if you're listening, that's why I said thank you. But, with that, I just think that that's something everyone should be aware of when you're buying a security system. Make sure that it's the right thing for you and that it's something that you really want and that it is not, based in seeing that goofy crook on Eufy's website of the person being surprised by the alarm system. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I guess that means that it is time for our picks of the week. Matthew Cassinelli, what is your pick of the week?
My pick of the week is an app called Laundry Lens, and let me tell you, if you want me to pick your app in pick of the week, put a shortcut in it. No, I'm just kidding. But Laundry Lens, I saw somebody on Reddit share a nice shortcut that all it does is activate Laundry Lens is an app that scans the laundry tags on your clothes so that you can determine what they mean at all, because it's always very confusing. And so this just has a little shortcut that can activate the scanner feature.
Bleach button and that kind of thing, and the wash in cold water. Okay, cool.
Or like hang dry and don't dry in the dryer. Like that's a big thing, is shrinking your clothes afterwards, because I have like a 60-year-old dryer that has one function, so got to be careful with that. But I have two NFC tags on. One on the laundry machine itself, and then one over, there's a little shelf above the dryer. And they're actually, one of them is a metal NFC tag, which is a specialized type that lets you, NFC doesn't work with metal unless there's a specific protective layer. So this lets me put it on the side of my laundry machine. And then when I tap my phone to it, it will set a timer for the amount of time the laundry machine takes. And then the dryer, because the dryer takes like 75 minutes or something to do just one load. It's kind of brutal sometimes. So I have added this into my automation for I guess I have to do it before I run the dryer now. I got to be careful of that, but it will have the laundry lens tag. So give me an extra couple of minutes to scan everything, and then will let me just have that automation go off, because I always find I have to get a better system where it's like the first time you start laundry, it's like how many loads are there, how many, and then the timing of the dryer versus the washer, because that's always a thing for me. But it's a perfect thing to automate because I don't want to think about it at all. And I would love for it to be done perfectly on time and just know when I need to go fold my clothes or switch the load or something like that. So this is one step in the process. And I did find an Android alternative, Laundry Pro. I don't know about the advanced features because the Android that I have is kind of broken and hasn't been turning on. But if anyone has a better recommended app, we could always follow up with that as well.
Yeah, I've downloaded this app. I think this is super cool. And yeah, I like these. These are just clever little things that I think are great. I've had a website that I've had linked for a long time that just has these different symbols on them. And, I go to look those up. But this, where it can actually see those different codes or those different symbols and just show you the ones that you need instead of having to, search through them all. That's so cool. So cool. Neat. A little hack, I think, for your home. All right. My pick of the week. It's a little on the pricey side. However, it is a really cool, because of how small it is, and also because CalDigit is, I've come to learn, is a really awesome company that makes some high quality and high performance technology. And that includes the CalDigit Tough Nano, which is a compact and rugged SSD. It's an external solid state drive. And it works, it does USB-C 3.2 Generation 2. I know that that's a really long name, but what that means is that it's up to 1,055 megabits, I think, per second. And so it's blazing fast. It comes in two sizes, 512 gigabytes and 1 terabyte. And it comes with a little sleeve that you can take off. I, of course, got the olive green, but when I take it off, I'll show you even how doggone small this little thing is. Super,
it's like
super
the size
small.
of a penny or at least the height of a penny. But yeah, that's pretty. It's like an AirPods case almost, maybe.
AirPods case is a pretty good comparison there. And this is a 512 gigabyte solid state drive.
Wow.
It's perfect given that it's USB-C 3.2 Gen 2. That means that it's got the USB-C port there, and I can plug it into my MacBook Pro. And this is running the beta version of macOS, the next version of macOS. So I've got Big Sur on here, and I can plug this in and run from this. And because it is the NVMe style SSD, which is blazing fast, there's no lag. There's virtually no lag while it's connected to my Mac. So I think this thing is pretty cool, not only for the fact that once Big Sur is good to go and I don't have to run it, then I've got this really elegant, very small solid state drive that I could take with me whenever I need to. And it is IP67 certified. So it's dust tight. Like dust particles can't get into the device. And then, they show even on in the video, you can drop it into water. So it can go into a meter of water and it's not going to harm your drive. Fully immersed in water up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. And it's still A-OK. That's because of a special Type-C connector it has that's waterproof and dust tight. And then, of course, when you've got the jacket on there, it will help you, of course, if you drop it or something like that. But the jacket is not required to make it waterproof and dust tight. That is simply how it's designed by default. So yeah, I really think this thing's super cool given its size and, like I said, its performance so far. The fact that he just sticks it in his pocket. It shouldn't stick out at all like that, but you can, like I said, run the beta version on here and then be able to, test Big Sur in my case. But I think about people who want to keep their photos library or their music library on an external drive so as not to clog up their main, PC or Mac. This is a great way to do that. You can store it all on the 512 gigabyte or 1 terabyte external drive. You plug it in and it's zippy quick, truly nice. Zippy quick. So yeah, I am pleased as punch, as it were, with this USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 CalDigit Tough Nano. And yeah, that's available for $129.99 or $130, which is not a bad price for a solid state drive in general. And then, like I said, for one so small, it's pretty impressive. Whew, we have reached the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today. If you have questions or feedback or anything like that, I've seen a few, so we'll definitely have to answer those next week. But please keep sending them in if you have not sent one in yet. Or if you sent one in and you think maybe it got buried or lost, go ahead and send it in again. It's no problem. That's stt@twit.tv. As you might imagine, STT stands for Smart Tech Today. So stt@twit.tv. And please subscribe to the show. That, of course, helps us out. Tell your friends about it. Let them know where they can go to subscribe. It's twit.tv/STT. When you head there, you can subscribe to the show in both audio and video formats, whether you're a Google Podcasts user, an Apple Podcasts user, a Spotify user, a YouTube user or viewer, I guess. Any of those places, we've got links so you can subscribe. And we do appreciate you subscribing and checking us out. We record this show live every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is 4 p.m. Pacific or 2300 UTC. Matthew Cassinelli, if folks want to follow your work online, where do they go to do so?
You can follow me at Matt Cassinelli on Twitter and then Matthew Cassinelli on YouTube. And in case you don't know how to spell it, CASSINELLI. And there will be a What's New with Shortcuts video coming soon. I'm going to try to drop it as soon as I can around the public beta. So hopefully Apple said that's coming July. I have no idea if that's going to be tomorrow or a couple weeks from now, but we'll see. So
soon.
Always fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. See if I can convince some folks to try it out. You can follow me. Right. You can follow me online at Mikah Sargent on pretty much all of the social media networks and also by heading to chihuahua.coffee. Last week ended up being, there was a lot that happened, so I haven't had a chance to create my new little site, but I will be doing that soon. But in the meantime, if you head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, it's a redirect currently where it's got links to all the different things that I do. Soon it will be its own web page with those links, but until then, you can head there. Alrighty, folks, it is time to say goodnight to your smart assistants. Good night, Alexa. I almost said it, and then I thought, no, that's the one I can't say. I could say good night, Google. Good night, Siri.
Let's just troll our listeners.
Good night, Echo. Hello, computer. Yes.
Yeah. Make sure to alarm your security system.
Good night, goofy burglar.
Hi, I'm Jason Howell, host of All About Android, where each week I'm joined by Ron Richards, Florence Ion, and a rotating crew of Android journalists, developers, and enthusiasts, where we talk about the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. You can subscribe by going to twit.tv/AAA or find the show in your podcatcher of choice. That's All About Android.